Looks as though this is not the traditional computer from this courtroom, so the login is not on it. If we don't know it, I may need a minute to just use mine.
I don't.
No. This might just take a moment. And what I'll do, if you don't mind multitasking, I'll begin with her. Morning, ma'am. State your name, please.
Saundra Osterman.
And you live here in Seminole County?
Yes.
How long have you lived in Seminole County?
16 years.
Okay. And are you married?
Yes.
And who are you married to?
Mark Osterman.
And he's testified before. What's his occupation?
He's a federal air marshal.
And he's been involved in law enforcement quite some time, hasn't he?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have y'all been married?
Almost 17 years.
Okay. You know George and Shelley Zimmerman?
Yes.
Tell me how you met George.
I met Georgie at a mortgage company called First Trust back in 2006.
Okay. And was that a place where you worked together?
Yes.
And what type of work did you do back then?
Mortgage business.
And was Mr. Zimmerman doing something similar?
Yes. He was in the sales and I was processing.
Okay. Did you guys become friends over the time that you worked together?
Yes.
Did you maintain that friendship?
Yes.
And it's that friendship that brings you here today, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And I know that you were present or around during the time both preceding the event that brings us here and, of course, right after the event, correct?
That's correct.
What I'd like to do, however, today is just focus your attention on one subject of that. And that is what we are calling the Lauer 911 tape, to identify to you that it's the tape that has a voice in the foreground. Turns out
His wife and I were best friends, and we'd all kind of hang out together at least every week or so.
All right. Have you then had a good opportunity to hear George's voice?
Yes.
Would that be in person?
Yes.
And over the phone?
Yes.
If you would tell the jury sort of the range. I mean, would you hear him, not to lead you, but talking, laughing, just sort of go through the different types of conversations or voices, if you will, that you heard?
I would hear him talking and laughing and maybe a little frustrated.
And would this be sort of over the several years that you've known him?
Right, yes.
Now, you acknowledge that you're a good friend of his, correct?
That's correct.
And you guys have helped each other out over the years, correct?
That's correct.
Certainly, you helped out or helped the family through the initial stages of this event, correct?
Yes.
Then there was a time when you could no longer have contact with him?
Yes.
Because of the case?
Yes.
Okay. Still maintain a friendship, though, from afar?
As far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Would your friendship with him impact on how you're going to testify today regarding what you may hear on the tape?
As far as what I lie?
Well, I guess that's a non-lawyer way to say it.
I wouldn't lie for him or anybody.
Okay. And let me, if I might, Your Honor, play what's already in evidence as Exhibit 158.
You may do so.
You 911 GD Police Fire Medical.
I'm
maybe both on screening outside. Okay, what's the address that they're near? 1211 Twin Trees Lane. Twin Trees Lane? Is this in the Twin Lakes homes in Sanford? Yes. Okay. And is it a male or female? It sounds like a male. And you don't know why? I don't know why. I think they're yelling help, but Does it hurt you? I can't see him. I don't want to go. I don't know what they're sending. There's gunshots.
Have you had a chance to look at that today?
A few.
Okay. Do you know whose voice that is in the background screaming?
Yes, definitely. It's Georgie.
And how?
I just hear, I hear it. I hear him screaming.
Nothing further, Your Honor. This witness, I'm going to leave this here. In case the state wants to replay it, I'll show you how to do it on this computer. If not, I'm going to leave it here for other witnesses.
Okay, thank you. You may
You
cross.
need it out of your way.
We may need to put another one. Can you put the one sanction?
Sure.
Oh, I apologize.
No, no problem at all. I'm just going to. I'm sure she knows better than either one of us, but let me undo this.
We're just going to need a minute for the technical. And while that's being set up, Ms. Osterman, good morning.
Good morning.
You and your husband wrote a book on behalf of the defendant, did you not?
Let me object, Your Honor, outside the scope of
Honor shows bias.
the proffer of how that issue would bias.
Overruled.
Dr. Osterman, so you would agree that you have a stake in this, don't you?
A stake?
Yeah, in terms of the book, how many books have been sold as a result of Mr. Zimmerman being charged with this crime in terms of you all? How many books have you guys sold?
I have no idea.
And all the money that is being made from that book, are you all profiting it, or are you donating the profits to Mr. Zimmerman's?
Actually, we're depositing it into our savings for George after.
Okay, you keep saying George, it's George Zimmerman, we're talking about the defendant, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I believe you've known Mr. Zimmerman for how long?
Since 2006.
And you met him through work.
That's correct.
And in fact, you ended up marrying he and his wife, correct?
That's correct.
And he is left-handed, correct?
Yes.
Now, regarding the recording that was played for you, you had heard this, you heard it 2 or 3 times, you said, or 4 times? I'm just
A few times.
Okay. Did it take you a while to figure out who was actually yelling?
Absolutely not.
You from the first time you
Very
heard it,
first
you
time.
knew? I apologize, I interrupted you, ma'am.
The very first time I knew it was George,
So why did you have to listen to it more than once?
because it's played on the news all the time.
Okay. And the first time you heard it was on the news?
Yes.
And so on the news, it was dealing with this case, George Zimmerman, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you were aware that the recording was dealing with George Zimmerman?
Yes.
Okay. And that in no way influenced you in reaching your, that this was George Zimmerman on the recording?
No.
Okay. Now, you had it lined up. Ma'am, listen to this and tell me if you recognize the voice.
Request for what exhibit it
What
is.
Non-emergency call that the defendant made. I didn't want to tip her off in terms of the recording, and that's why on purpose.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, then I didn't mean to get in the way.
Well, now you know what I'm going to play for you. I was trying to do it so that, but you have heard this recording before, correct?
I don't know.
Okay, let me play a part. See if you recognize this.
Okay. These assholes, they always get away.
Do you recognize that voice?
Yes,
And who is that voice is saying, pardon my language, these assholes, they always get away?
that's Georgie.
George Zimmerman?
Yes.
You know, in court, we were supposed to give the... I apologize. All right. Sorry. So I just go up here? Okay. Ask if you recognize this.
Straight in, don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running. He's running, which way? Down towards the entrance of the neighborhood. Okay. The back entrance.
Did you recognize that voice?
Yes.
And was
Oh.
You didn't hear that? I
No.
can play it again if you want.
Yeah. You go straight in, don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running. He's running? Which way is he running? Down towards the entrance of the neighborhood. Okay. Which entrance is that he's heading towards? The back entrance.
Do you recognize that voice as being George Zimmerman?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you had never actually heard the 911 tape other than when you heard it when it was being played, George Zimmerman, but you had not heard the defendant screaming before, had you?
Like that? No.
Yes.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Just a bit, Your Honor.
Do you need this?
No,
still up?
that's okay. So you heard him say the word assholes, right,
Yes.
on the tape?
Yes.
And you've heard him talk for years now, correct?
That's correct.
Did that word, the way he said assholes, did that give you a sense that he was acting with spite or ill will or hatred in that sense?
No.
Did that seem to be just to be an offhand way of talking to whoever it was he was talking about?
Yes.
Did you, knowing as you do George's voice throughout the years, did you even hear, by the way, the second time, did you hear him say the expletive that Mr. Delayondo repeated?
I didn't hear that. No.
So even the second time when you were answering it, you were saying generally that's George Zimmerman's voice,
Correct.
but you couldn't even hear the words fucking punks on that?
No, I didn't hear that.